resonates with most folks about me is that I didn't take the easy path through education. Learning was never difficult for me, but I was never gifted or a great student or anything like that. I was in grade school, but by the time I got to junior high and high school, I started to think I knew more than my teachers, and I was bored, and that I knew everything I needed to know to be successful in life, and I was ready to go out and work and make a living and be done with education. So I dropped out when I was 16 and thought that was all I needed. That was all the education I needed. I was good. I was ready to go, you know, face the world. And it was a few years of working odd jobs and working, you know, I did road construction. I worked in the oil field for a little while. I learned a trade. I built boat upholstery for a little while. I worked in fast food. I learned how to say hi, welcome to Wendy's, and hi, welcome to Arby's, and hi, welcome to the Dairy Queen, you know, and all of those. And what I realized about all of those jobs was that without the education to go with them, no one was ever going to take me seriously, and I wasn't going to be able to advance. And at some point, at the same time I was realizing that, the boat factory that I was working at, where I had learned this upholstery trade, it shut down. And so there was an opportunity to go to college because of the Job Training Partnership Act. And I had applied for a job on the road crew, and I thought, if I get that, that'll be wonderful. You know, I can make a career out of that. It's a state job, and I had already done some road construction, and I never heard back from them, and the interview came and went, and I never heard. So I thought, well, gosh, I guess I'll try this Job Training Partnership Act thing. And I went to the local community college, and I enrolled in one night class. It was an outreach class that was about 60 miles from the actual college. It was on a high school campus in the evening. It was actually the high school where I had dropped out. And so it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, was to walk back into that high school and take that class. But I was at a point where I knew that I cared more about my future than I did what everyone thought. And I knew that in order for me to have a future, I was going to have to do something different. So I went back, and I kind of begrudgingly, I wasn't excited about education. I wasn't like, I'm ready to learn, I'm ready to be here, ready to learn a trade, or, you know, I was just, it felt like that was the only option I had. And when I got there, I took that one evening class, and it was like a 12-week class, I think, and I did fairly well, and the instructor talked me into going back full-time and trying an actual program. So I went to the community college. I enrolled. I lived in the dorm. You know, in fact, I was a roommate with a high school valedictorian, and what was interesting was she struggled as much as I did. She had been a really good student in high school and wasn't used to having to study and had never been really challenged. And I, on the other hand, just didn't know how to study, you know, and because I'd never had to, because I wasn't in school. So we helped each other, and we both worked through our woes. And, you know, I took advantage of the resources that they told me about when I was in the community college, because I knew I needed some assistance. So when they would tell me about the tutoring center, I went. I probably drove my math instructor nuts, because when he had office hours, I was there. I was sitting in there asking him for help. And I'll recall that he never ever acted like, oh gosh, her again? You know, and I appreciate that now, because I think any hint of, oh gosh, her again, and I would have been out the door and the other way, and I would have never come back. So I really appreciate that now, and I tried to always make sure that I'm there for the students when I was a faculty member, and, you know, always had an open door and was always ready to assist, because there was someone for me like that. And I changed my major. I started out as a bookkeeping major in a short 9-month program that would get me a job. And I realized that I had some skills in mathematics, and I also recognized the value that education brought, and that after about a semester I changed my major to mathematics. And I didn't really know what I was going to do with mathematics, so after about a year and a half, I realized that teaching might be a good option, and that maybe I could help somebody as a high school teacher who had struggled like I did. And so I became a high school teacher for the next 8 years. But my love was always at that community college, because that was where education became important to me. And so I always wanted to get back to a community college and to be able to give back in the way that Dr. Leiker shared with me. And so when I had the opportunity, after 10 years of teaching high school, I went back to the community college, and I was a math faculty member for about 3 years. And after those 3 years, I moved into administration, moved into a dean's role, and eventually into a vice president's role. And then I wanted to learn more about policy, and saw the education, kind of the issues that we were facing in education and the challenges, and recognized that in administration I might be able to do something about those challenges. And so I went into administration, and here I am at Mountain Empire because I love rural. I love rural colleges. My heart's always been in rural. I grew up and spent most of my life in a town of about 3,000, and I know what education can do. I've seen it for other people. I've seen it for myself. I know firsthand what it can do to not only help you with a living wage, and to be able to sustain a family and to earn a family-sustaining wage through education, but also just the value intrinsically that it's brought to me in terms of my self-confidence, my ability to interact with others, my communication, my understanding of the world, my ability to look at the world through the lens of other people, not just my own, and to understand. It's brought me understanding, and it's made me happier. So I'm a lifelong learner because I feel like learning enriches my life. And the sharing of that learning really enriches my life. And so that's why I'm an educator. That's why I want to share education with others.